This is Julio's Corner, my corner of the internet, where I talk about whatever is on my mind. I'll mostly talk about stuff I've watched, read, or listened to, but sometimes I may ramble on about the news or politics or on society at large. This episode is being recorded on Monday, August 11th, 2025. And welcome back to the show. I am your host, Julio from New York, as I always am, because this is my show, my corner. And here we are. So once again, I don't have a lot to talk about this episode, so it's probably going to be a short one. So in terms of the news, once again, it's still more of the same. Not even going to bother with a graphic or anything like that, because it's a pretty easy rundown. There's a couple of exclamation points to the sameness of the news, so I'll highlight those things. For instance, Trump got himself a Purple Heart. He's never served the military. In fact, he is a draft dodger. He's infamously known for being a draft dodger because of he had a doctor write up a false report that he had allegedly, I'll say allegedly for legal purposes, allegedly he had bone spurs or something to that effect, which permitted him from dodging the draft. But he gave himself a Purple Heart. There was a Purple Heart ceremony he did for some soldiers in the White House, and he felt he too deserved one while doing this ceremony, because he got, during his campaign for presidency, there was an assassination attempt where he had a bullet graze his ear. So even though he wasn't in the military, he did get shot at. So for that reason alone, he deserves a Purple Heart. Let's forget the fact that in previous Purple Heart ceremonies, he pretty much belittled and diminished the awardees of the Purple Heart because, the Purple Heart is for someone who got hurt during a time of war. And to him, any sign of weakness is a bad one, even though it's, in the serving the serving the public for the greater good. To him, it's considered weakness to be shot at. But he too got shot, so there's that. In his case, it's heroism that he got shot. During nothing for the country, it was all for himself because he was campaigning for presidency. But that deserves the Purple Heart for sure. And of course, the Epstein files is in the still in the news. So it's just crazy. It's just cartoonishly evil how this administration has been working, because the whole thing about the right wing and the Republicans and his campaign, the whole thing about that is that they are supposed to be, family values and Christian and all of that, right? And yet here you are, he himself, he's an alleged rapist and alleged sex pest, and people under him are alleged sex pests, and he's protecting a sex trafficker in the name of Ghislaine Maxwell, I think is how you pronounce it. I always mess up her name. And of course, the reason he's protecting her is because she was Epstein's associate, and she could easily incriminate Trump in any of those child trafficking crimes that were done under Epstein and her, under Ghislaine Maxwell. So he's doing his best to shut her up by giving her a pardon, which is still pending. She's already been transferred to a minimum security prison where there's very little security. She could easily just walk out if she wanted to. And it's also a place that sex traffickers, people convicted of sex trafficking, are not supposed to be at. They're not allowed, because this is a minimum security prison for very low-level crimes, nothing as serious as sex trafficking. But, there's an exception for her because it's the Trump administration, and anything that Trump wants, Trump gets. So you have those two sex pests supporting each other. You have Lawrence Taylor. So apparently he had sex with a minor, and he pleaded guilty to that for a teen prostitute, I think it was, a 16-year-old. And now he's working under the administration for physical education. So you have him, you have Trump, you have Ghislaine Maxwell. Who else? There's so many. There's this other senator or something who got a restraining order against himself for Miss America or something to that effect. So yeah, you have all these sex pests supporting each other under the red team, and the red team's whole thing is we have to release the Epstein. Well, during the campaign, it was let's release the Epstein files so we can catch all these sex predators, and yet here you have sex predators running that team. Netanyahu, in a recent interview, he pretty much said the quiet thing out loud in that they want to take over all of Gaza. And yeah, they just want to take over it for a short. I mean, that's his argument. His defense is that it's only for temporary moments, just for a short length of time, till we get rid of all of Hamas, and then we'll give it back to the good people of Palestine. When in fact, that's not going to happen. This is just a further movement of his agenda, which is to take over all of that area to expand Israel's domination of that area in the Mideast. They're just trying to grow the country of Israel, the nation of Israel, to be as big as the biblical version of Israel. They call it Old Judea or something to that effect. So that's what he really wants. But these are the small steps. First, we're gonna genocide the Palestinians under the guise of Hamas, and then we're gonna continue to destabilize Syria so we can take a piece of that land over there. We want to completely destroy the Iranian way of life because they're a threat. Who else are there to attack? Lebanon. We got to keep bombing and destabilizing and destabilize Lebanon as well for the sake of Israel. So in all this madness and cartoonishly evil things that are happening, the only people that are really attacking this administration publicly is, sadly, I say sadly because it's not really. I mean, it's a good laugh for a moment, but nothing consequential comes of it. But you have South Park hitting the administration hard in their satire. So the first episode, made fun of Trump and talked about him having a small penis. And then the second episode that just came out started going after ICE, which is great, because we really need to draw attention to ICE's crazy illegal acts of disappearing immigrants and, both legal and quote unquote illegal immigrants. And anyone of color with a Spanish, for the moment, anyone of color with a Spanish name or of Iranian descent, or anyone that looks Iranian. Eventually, they'll once they wipe those people out, they'll go to the next group of non-whites, because that's their agenda. They're trying to make America white again. And though they haven't said that out loud yet, at least not completely, there's been a few blips. Larry Loomer, or whatever her name, Laura Loomer, said a quote, something about we need to get rid of this many millions of Americans. I forget what the number is, but basically it's the amount of Hispanics that live in the country, regardless of whether they're citizens or not. So there's that. There's a couple of blips of racists out there that so far have publicly said things, had coded messaging about getting rid of Hispanics in this country. So yeah, South Park, this show under the Paramount umbrella, has been the only one that has been really attacking them hard and making the news about them attacking hard. Even ICE, funny enough, took a clip of that show that was making fun of them and used it as promotional material on Twitter, which is, or as we now call it, X. So that is the insanity that we live in. you have a show mocking you, and even then you're like, hey, any publicity is good publicity, and even though you're mocking me, yeah, I can use this as PR. I'm gonna put this on my social media account to continue promoting our brand. And even JD Vance is like, hey, you made it when you're being made fun of as the little football baby on South Park. So that's pretty much the news in a nutshell. Those are the highlights of the news. Now, onto the stuff I really want to talk about, which again, I don't think I'm going to go long, but here we go. So, in recent weeks or months, I've been sort of down on wrestling. I got back into wrestling starting with WrestleMania 40 up until WrestleMania 41. And then a few months after, WrestleMania 41 was so bad. And I go at length on it in a video that I made actually the day after the episode, last week's episode on, I did it on, Sunday. I did episode 10. And then that Monday I recorded another episode. Well, not an episode, but a video about my review of SummerSlam, which happened last weekend. And I go at length on as to my feelings of wrestling. So, anyways, we're not gonna rehash all of that. If you want to know about my takes on wrestling, you can definitely check out that video. It's like an hour long ramble about SummerSlam and my history of being a fan of wrestling. So, anyways, point is, SummerSlam was so good. It won me over. It won me back, so to speak. It pulled me back in. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. And I said, okay, I haven't watched SmackDown or Raw in some time because of the bad taste I've had in my mouth since WrestleMania 41. And the last few Raws and SmackDowns that I've watched have since only further ruined my taste of it. But SummerSlam pulled me back in. So I needed to see the aftermath of SummerSlam this past week. So saw Raw, saw SmackDown, and I kind of like the storyline that's going on with Seth Rollins being the new world champion. He got his title back that he lost in WrestleMania 40, and I'm glad to see that, what's his face, Braun Breaker isn't hurt like I thought he was. Because at the end of SummerSlam, he had like a stent. I think that's what you call it. He had his leg, tied up with like a stick. I think it's called a stint. Is what you call that. Anyways, so I thought he must have badly damaged his leg because he was limping badly and all that, and he had his leg all braced up. But he showed up this week. Nothing on his legs, walking perfectly fine to the stage, to the ring, with no problems. And so yeah, I'm happy with that. What's going on with that? Naomi is still going strong. I like her storyline. Becky Lynch had a good back and forth with Nikki. Forget her last name, and totally torched her on stage. They were talking smack to each other, and Becky Lynch got the best out of that battle. I found out that the Wyatt Six are now heels. They're no longer the morality tale of the show. I still don't agree with that, since that's how they first came in, and they're supposed to be supernatural, but apparently, I guess they're just a bunch of people who like to look like they're supernatural, but they're not. That's what they are now. They're just normal people. They're nothing. There's nothing magical about them anymore. They're just weirdos who have a horror fetish, so to speak, and they're heels. And the name of the guy that the Wyatt Six is sort of an honor to is Bray Wyatt, which makes sense. The Wyatt Six, his last name. Uncle Howdy is his younger brother of Bray Wyatt, and yeah, so that's the name I was thinking of last week. Not last week, but last week in my little video about wrestling. Anyways, I'm still glad that Alexa Bliss is not involved with them. She has her thing with Charlotte Flair. That relationship is kind of interesting. The whole love hate. We're not friends, but we respect each other, so we're going to be partners. But at the same time, we kind of have these feelings with for each other because we're kind of liking each other, and we might become friends, or from the moment we're still frenemies. That's kind of weird. The whole tag team division in Raw is still pretty bad. Totally the opposite of the tag team division on SmackDown. And it wouldn't be a bad idea to get maybe, well, no, actually, first they really need to fix up the tag team division on Raw, and then maybe once they make it a little more interesting, grab some of the, or at least one other team from SmackDown, like the Motor City Gunners, Motor City Machine Guns. I think that's how you say their name. They should maybe bring them over because they were the ones that helped when they joined WWE. They're the ones who helped bring the resurgence of the tag team division on SmackDown. They were the catalyst to their renaissance, and so they could probably do the same with Raw once they start coming up with some decent rivalries. Because still, the only tag teams I see there is Judgment Day and the New Day, and the Judgment Day aren't really wrestling anyone because that's always been their MO, is to avoid fights as much as possible. And the New Day, apparently they recently lost their belts, I guess, to Judgment Day, and they're grieving the loss of their belts. So they're just really all they're doing is commentary. And Austin Waller, the Austin Waller team, A-Town Down Under, it looks like they broke up. Apparently Austin Theory got hurt, and he's been disappeared. And Grayson Waller is trying to join the New Day. He's calling himself Big G to replace Big E, because Big E was the original third member of the New Day, who they had a falling out with when they turned heel. So those are the only. There's what's the name of that group? Raw is War. War is Raw. Raw is War. The Vikings, whatever that team name is. I haven't seen them, so I don't know what's going on with them. And that's it. I don't think there are any other teams in Raw. Oh, LWO, but I don't see much with them. So yeah, they really need to fix that division, and then once they have some decent storylines, bring Motor City Machine Gunners over. So that being said, regarding wrestling, there's this wrestling podcast on YouTube called Wrestling is Cool with Sancho and Santizap. And I was listening to them during that year that I got back into wrestling, when I discovered them through the YouTube algorithm. And I haven't been listening to them in a while because I wasn't watching wrestling. But because of SummerSlam, I decided to check this last episode that they made, and they validated my point of view about wrestling this year. So I don't feel like it was totally just me being burnt out with that long year trek of watching every week, when I haven't been watching wrestling for years before that. So what I was feeling about the letdown of WrestleMania 41, and in the last few months until SummerSlam, was voiced by them as well. They were pretty much saying the same thing I was saying. So as a casual fan, because I don't know the lore that in depth that they do, of course, or real hardcore wrestling fans, I still consider myself a casual because, again, I've only been back in it for a year. I'm feeling gratified. Is that the word I'm looking for? I feel, well, I mean, not that anyone was criticizing me because I don't talk to anyone, but I feel vindicated to myself and validated that my feelings were reflected by these two hardcore wrestling fans that do a show about it every day, pretty much, and they felt exactly the same way that I did. So I feel vindicated for that. Anyways, moving on. Marc Maron, a podcaster, comedian extraordinaire. He's a guy that I used to be a huge fan of since his Air America days when he did the show Morning Sedition. And then he did a thing with Sam Cedar of the Majority Report. They did a show called Break Room Live, which I try to watch the few times that I could catch it on YouTube when it was live. The videos of that show do not exist anywhere anymore. You can see some clips on YouTube I found, but they're gone for the most part. So yeah, I was a big fan of him in that time period, the late '90s, early 2000s. Actually, since before Air America, he was on Comedy Central in the early days of Comedy Central. He used to host short attention span theater. I believe it was the name of that comedy show. It was a show that showed clips of stand up in the early days of Comedy Central. So yeah, I was a big fan of him for a really long time, and then he started doing the show WTF. I think that's what it's called, WTF with Marc Maron, and I listened to it regularly for like the first 2 years, but then the show kind of settled into mostly a interview show, and for whatever reason, interview shows start to lose its appeal for me after a while because it's just formulaic. There's the monologue, which is interesting because he's talking about himself and his cats and whatever is going on with his life, and then you have the interview. And some of the interviews may be people I'm interested in, and then the others not so much. It's just whoever he's interviewing. So for me, I just I missed the earlier format where he was. It was mostly just him, and sometimes it wasn't just an interview show because he would mostly talk to people that he was trying to mend the fences with. And of course, Sam Cedar showed up a few times in the very early episodes of WTF, because in the first month or so, he just got fired from Air America, but the studio or whatever where Air America, because they went bankrupt, but that the place, I'll call it the studio where Air America was done, apparently was still available. So Marc Maron would just sneak in there to record his show with his producer, and Sam Cedar would also sneak in there to, I guess, grab hardware, I guess, to do what became the Majority Report. He grabbed the sound gear or whatever. And so while Marc Maron would be recording his show, Sam Cedar would sneak in and they would have their little tete-a-tete. Because mostly Sam Cedar. He loved to pull his, jab at him mentally, and what's the word? What's the phrasing? He liked to bust his balls. There we go. Yeah, he liked to bust his balls. Like, I guess because he's a Boston. He's from Worcester, but he's a Massachusetts guy. So Massachusetts guys, New Englanders, they like to bust balls, And Marc Maron, even though he was a Boston comic, he was also an LA comic and a New York comic. He's from New Mexico, so he's originally from New Mexico. So he's not really of that build. So he doesn't necessarily take to the busting the balls very well. He gets very defensive, and then he'll get more. He'll try to hit harder, and that's always been his MO. At least in the early days, he's toned it down a bit because he was also not as successful back then. So he had a lot more insecurities then than he does now. Now he's a lot more successful. Obviously, he's doing movies. He had a TV show based on his podcast. The podcast has been going strong for 16 years, but now it's ending. He's finally ending the show. So that's why he's everywhere. He's being interviewed on several podcasts, which I listened to a few. And he was on Conan's show, and I think he went on the late night shows and things like that. So he was also on the Majority Report actually this past Friday. So that was a fun return of the Sam Cedar, Marc Maron chemistry. Watching them go at it on the Majority Report, which you can find on YouTube. I guess I'll put a link on that in the show notes. So, anyways, he has a new special out called Panicked. I just finished watching it. It's fun. I enjoyed it. It's typical Marc Maron stuff. He did a couple of. He started off with some politics. Then he started talking about himself, of course, and then he took some jabs at the Rogan Sphere comics. Specifically, he singled out Theo Von. The joke is, if Hitler was alive, how would an interview of Hitler by Theo Von go? And basically, he's just, I'm not gonna kill that joke, paraphrasing it. But well, I guess I'm paraphrasing it. The sentiment basically is just a criticism of how out of depth these these comic podcasters are trying to have these controversial leaders, political leaders, on their shows, like a Donald Trump, if you will, or a JD Vance, or the head of the FBI, and just completely, what's the phrasing? Laundering, basically cleaning their image. I forget how the phrase goes. Laundering their image, and making them try to look like, hey, he's a guy I could drink a beer with. That kind of sentiment, and not critically going at them regarding their policies and how they're going to affect society at large, but making them seem like they're these likable guys who would not want to vote for them. And now here we are in this fascist regime that's slowly destroying the fabrics of society around us. So yeah, that was a nice highlight of the comedy special, and of course, that's the part of the special that everyone keeps bringing up on his interviews, and he goes into it a little more in depth as to his whole take on it. That he doesn't consider himself a political comic, but he does occasionally talk about political things because he feels a responsibility to address that, because comedy is a little bit about truth, and when fascism is rearing its ugly head in your face, you should address it, and not try to put a positive spin on it or normalize it, which is what these other shows like Theo Von and Joe Rogan have done. So there's that going on. What's the last thing I want to ramble about? Okay, so I mentioned I was no longer on any social medias except for the YouTube, and I had even killed off my Reddit account. Well, sadly, I'm back on Reddit. I have no way to socialize with anyone, and at least on Reddit you can go on subreddits that you like. For instance, the Majority Report, or a bunch of cat Reddit subreddits, or wrestling subreddits and things of that nature, and you can socialize with others that are in those subreddits, and hopefully in a more positive, in a positive way, and you don't get into these heated exchanges that are more prevalent on Twitter, because Twitter is a toxic place I would never want to subject anyone to. So yeah, I joined a Reddit again. So I couldn't stay away. That's pretty much all I have to say about Reddit. Other than, yeah, that's all I have to say. There's not much else regarding that. Just that, I don't have any other means of communication with anyone outside of myself. At work, I'm alone. When I'm home, I'm alone, and I'm awake when most people are not. So the only way I can communicate with anyone or have any semblance of communication is via social networks, apparently. And I refuse to join any Meta product, and I definitely don't want to go on X. I did sign up for Blue Sky, so I forgot about that. I did go on Blue Sky, but it's not the same. It doesn't have the same magic that Twitter used to have, that I was a fan of when it, back when it first came out. Blue Sky doesn't have the same pull. The same. It doesn't do anything for me. And Reddit is not so bad in that sense. So I can talk to people directly, or I could just read posts of interest, of things that I'm interested in, and comment on those things, and sometimes exchange some discourse with others in that same post. So it's fun. It gives me some form of connection. However, I can't even think of a word to describe it. It's not completely. It's not quite the human connection like a close friend will be. But it's a nice. It's like a water cooler conversation connection with a peer or colleague. So at least there's that. There's some kind of there's a little bit of a human connection going on there. At least you hope it's a human on the other end of that comment, and it's not a chatbot that you're talking to, because that would be scary if chatbots had gotten that level of sentience to fool myself. Anyways, that wraps up the show. If you have any questions, comments, or any thoughts you'd like to share, you can reach me via the contact form on my website, or click on the contact me link in the show notes. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe. And if you're feeling generous, by all means, you can click on the donate link in the show notes and send some money my way. This show is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International License. This means you can share this audio, remix it, do whatever you want with it. Just say where you got it from. And as always, thank you for listening.